This drawer, this is my graveyard. This is where tools go to rest and knives that are too embarrassing to put on YouTube live. Ah, the Ichiban. No joke, a $2 thrift store find. In this video, I'm gonna show you how I transform thrift store trash into high performance cutlery. We're gonna be using the new Buck Tool variable speed 2-inch belt grinder, the razor edge Radius Platen, and for the sharpening segment, haven't figured that one out yet. But one thing I do know, if this thing doesn't get improved, it's going right back in the drawer. All right, let's grind. Behind the edge thickness. When you cut, I want you to imagine this. When you cut into a firm object, think of like a potato or a carrot. The material of that food, it has to move out of the way to let a blade pass through it, right? A thick behind the edge measurement, like what we're seeing here on this blade, 50 thousandths behind the cutting edge. What's happening when we cut through food, dense foods, it's forcing material apart abruptly, which causes it to crack or snap. And we don't want that. So check it out, a knife with both pour behind the edge geometry, it might feel sharp when you're cutting through a piece of paper, shaving your arm, or whatever, a edge on up sharpness tester. But imagine this, you're cutting through that potato and you get halfway and it just stalls out. The moment that blade enters a deep cut, right? That's what I'm talking about. Thinning this knife down to 20 thousandths is gonna allow this blade to glide through potato, carrot, whatever, with medium or minimal resistance. Now here's my concern and what I don't know a lot about, okay? Let's call this the technical precision zone. I'm looking for a place where we don't get, how do I put it, a noodle effect. When the steel behind the edge is too thin, the apex can lose its vertical support, right? Even light lateral pressure, like a slight bit of torque during a slice, if we go too thin, it can cause the edge to ripple or wave like plastic. This is called plastic deformation. So if we go too extreme with our thinness, the steel can cross a threshold where it goes from being elastic, and what I mean by that is it can spring back, right? Imagine a spring. It compresses and it bounces back. The alternative is going too far though, into the plastic zone where there is no springing back and you're stuck with a wavy, ugly, bent up edge. So if we just continue to sharpen a blade over and over and over, year after year after year, as we move up and we're removing that material, the knife is just gonna become thicker and thicker. If we don't perform thinning or a regrind, the knife will eventually become a blunt wedge. And that's regardless of how much we polish and tweak out on the sharpness of the blade. So this is why I'm doing what I'm doing here. As I got into thinning, I realized really quickly I needed better belts, okay? My belts were doling out, like I was grinding and grinding and grinding and nothing was, like I wasn't seeing the progress, right? That ceramic, the right ceramic belt is actually a very special thing. And here's why. Ceramic is special. Unlike aluminum oxide or zirconia, they just dole out, okay? And you're gonna learn this quickly the hard way if you don't switch to ceramic sooner than later. Ceramic is special because as you grind, the particles, the grains, they break away and they reveal a new razor sharp edge. This means the belts are gonna cut aggressively as you work, how do I put it, work through the thickness of the material on the belt. I remember the first time I got turned on to harder abrasive materials, It was my first 15V on the Tormek with the SG250 or aluminum oxide wheel. And I mean, at that point, the blade was sharpening the wheel, if that makes sense. I was getting nowhere. An hour went by and I was not making any progress. And that's because standard abrasives, they skate over the carbides. Ceramic grains, though, they're hard enough to cut right through them. And the other big advantage is you just work faster. They cut cleaner, they cut smoother. You get your job done quicker. Thinning, this is a whole different beast. It's a whole different animal, okay? I'm currently refining and analyzing my technique and, you know, the Buck Tool 2-inch machine, the Razor Edge Radius Platen. These are new tools to me. I've had them for only a couple months. I'm not claiming to be an expert by any means. I'm a practitioner, okay? In the middle of the grind, sharing the data as I collect it. I'm still calibrating my hands, right? You're seeing every step of my current progression. I'm leaning into the science as much as I can. I want to bridge the gap to where I become where I want to be. One other thought, I always try to put myself in the viewer's shoes. One question I'd be asking me is, why do you stop at 20 thousandths behind the edge? It's simple. It's simply the spot where on some types of steel, it becomes very plastic. But on others, I do have some stability. So it's just my safe zone right now. And as I learn more, I definitely plan to push the boundaries. And when you get a high performance belt like these Magna Peaks, don't do what I just did right there. I stopped because I realized, oh shoot, I shouldn't be doing this. You don't want to be putting a straight edge right down the middle. You're gonna wear your belt out very quickly. And I don't know about you, but I like to save money. I want those things to last a long time. So go grab that old beater belt. And that's what you're gonna use to reprofile and, you know, make those spines a little bit more pretty, a little bit safer. So thinning on a flat platen, it is so difficult to do by hand. If your hand wobbles even 1 degree, you create a facet or a flat spot that looks like a mistake. The radius, this Radius Platen, I don't know what exactly it is, but I guess it absorbs those micro movements and it blends the grind naturally, so you don't end up with choppy looking steel or have these big valleys. Now, I've made the valleys. You can mess up on a Radius Platen, but it's way more forgiving. And because this platen is curved, only a small portion of the belt is actually making contact with the blade at any given time. So it gives you more control over the material removal process. And then once you're finished with your thinning, right? You just got finished doing some really heavy work on your Magna Peaks, your grit 60, your grit 120. You're gonna have some deep scratches in your blade, and they might not look great. So these non-woven belts, it's a 3-dimensional web of nylon fibers. And essentially it just kind of blurs the lines and it creates a uniform directional finish. I mean, just look at this thing. I still can't believe I'm capable of this. It's so beautiful. And it gets better from here. I'm not even great at this yet. I've seen some absolutely incredible finishes by guys with a lot of experience. So I'm super excited for the... Now, one thing you got to be really mindful of when you're using these conditioning belts is heat buildup. It happens quick, especially at the point of the knife. So I'll typically run them really slow and just kind of try to let that air move underneath it to keep the blade cool. And I'll do that. I'll rock the blade back and forth a little bit to make sure I'm getting from the spine to the apex. I want a really nice finish on it. This is a little hack I came up with. So instead of just jumping onto my 1x30 or my Tormek with a super blunt edge, let's just go throw a 30-degree apex on it. And that's gonna make the sharpening just a little bit quicker. Jesus, look at that. It's actually kind of like crazy how beautiful that is. And you get to see the, that's the blade when I first got it. Just the ugliest. That thing was heavy. I've probably got more hours on this blade than any other blade on the planet right now. This has been a practice knife for a very long time. So I'm happy to bring it to its final form and in this saga of the Ichiban. I remember when I first got it, I had a really hard time getting a good edge on it. Kind of messing around with some blue color tones there, having some fun. Well, we're gonna go ahead and take this thing over to the 1x30. We just did all that work. We're definitely taping this bad boy up. We don't want any scratches on it. We're gonna go jump on that brand new KFMK angle guide. Oh, I'm so proud of that. And everybody that put time and effort into the design. Man, I just absolutely love this angle guide. Best part about it, it's precise, right? You can use my digital angle finder and I can start at 17.3 degrees. There's a whole science behind the angles I choose. I always like to start 2/10 above. How do I put it? I always start 2/10 higher for the initial grind. Remember that whole conversation about plastic steel? So I'm gonna start 2/10 higher. I'm gonna get that apex all dialed in. It's gonna go really quick because we just put a 25-30 degree edge on it. But on the next step, we're gonna reduce that angle by a couple tenths of a degree. And we're gonna do it edge leading. This way we minimize or mitigate the possibility of plastic steel on the apex, the last place you want it. Last thing you want. Everyone here's worked with a dull knife in their lifetime. And it's a headache. And you don't want a customer. You don't want to put out a blade, put a bunch of time into it, and in a month's time, it's dull. Slapping on the Trizac A30, roughly 600, 800 grit, edge trailing with an angle guide. This is something new I'm exploring. For those of you that watch, you know I love edge trailing on my Tormek, but it's easy because I've got an angle guide to hold me in place. Over here, that belt wants to pull the blade off of the angle guide, so it takes a lot of focus in a soft hand to achieve what I'm doing at this moment. But it's very possible, and it just takes a little bit of practice and some muscle memory, and you'll get it in no time. And now we're jumping onto that leather belt. It's time to actually increase a couple tenths, half a degree. And we're gonna put that final attack on our burr. And what I'm doing here is I'm shooting for that technical precision zone. I want this blade to be a bit toothy, but I also want it to be razor sharp. And you're about to see why, because I do a cut test that I've never done on this show before, and I'm super excited about it. But first, we're just gonna do one last pass on the new Black Obsidian belt. This is felt, again, non-woven. Just a couple quick passes and boom, we're about to have some real fun, guys. I'm excited for you to see this. from thrift store trash to 2000s behind the cutting edge. This thing's a demon now. In the paper roll cut test, that's a first I've ever done on the show. Oh yeah, I've always thought it was like near impossible, but when you get the right amount of toothiness and you feel that bite, you attack. My wife Tanya, she's an actual pro. She got the technique down. She does it almost every time. And we got to see the Magna Peak belts. I'm very excited about those. I've sent them out to over 7 people, knife makers, professional sharpeners, putting time on them, giving feedback. And guess what? They're coming very soon. More to come on that. Hey, and don't forget to keep experimenting